let me bring up our special guest tonight, Doug Iske of jerky.com.
Coolest Oklahoma City business domain ever. Ever.
Yeah,
Let's just start right with that, because that was one of the things I was going to ask you.
Okay.
How did you get jerky.com and jerky on Twitter?
So a previous business partner of mine registered a bunch of generic domain names like in 97, 98. So I can't take full credit for that, but registered in 97 before anybody really knew, whether domains were going to take off or not. So
That's the first time I've heard that working.
Oh,
Where
yeah?
someone like sat on a bunch of domains and then actually used it for something.
Yeah, a lot of people went into it. They even at that time, I know people they went back. They had their pick. They had the pick of the litter, and they picked the stupidest things. And but yeah. Anyway, so that's it. My previous business partner registered a bunch of them, and together we started jerky.com, and then parted ways. And
Well, that was an awesome question to start, but we should start with some introductions.
yeah,
Doug Iske, owner of jerky.com, right?
that's right.
Clap it up for Doug.
All right.
My name is Kyle Golding. I'm the CEO and Chief Strategic Ideas for the Golding Group. I work out of 3810 Project here. My office is on the hallway that you came in on. This is our second speaker series. Just an idea of getting together with some interesting business people doing interesting things in Oklahoma City, give you guys some information, get feedback from you, Q&A, all that good stuff. Of course, the networking, couple of adult beverages, etc. is what we're doing here. This is presented by DD Audio, our neighbors next door, and the folks who are invested in this building as well. Trying to make things interesting and creative in Oklahoma City's music and business scene. As well, tonight we're working with the guys from Startup OKC and Startup Ground. We appreciate you guys being here too as well. So with that, let's get right into it, Doug.
Let's go.
A lot of people think they could probably do e-commerce and build a website that they could sell stuff on, and most of them are wrong. So give us the 10-minute thumbnail as to how the idea, how you actually developed it, some of the ups and downs, and how you came about to now what jerky.com is online. We'll talk about retail later.
Okay, see if I can do this. I'm not good at this stuff. So I've got a long, steeped history in e-commerce. I mean, I've been doing it since like the beginning, early 2000s. I mean, before e-commerce was even, there was a name for it. But did a bunch of stuff through college on my own, and then somewhere.
Anything we recognize?
No. So
Anything that still exists?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually started by selling shoes on eBay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know how far back you want to go, but my first step into e-commerce was I wanted a bright red pair of sneakers, like red on red on red. And I couldn't find any, like in my time I lived in Omaha, Nebraska. I couldn't find them anywhere. This was, I'm talking.
It was red because of the Nebraska thing, right?
Probably.
Okay.
So 2001, 2002, like it was a long time ago. So couldn't find anything, and I'd never made a purchase online. So somehow I found Zappos.com. This is, again, this is the infancy of online commerce. Like people weren't even comfortable really giving credit cards then. So I found the Zappos site, looked around, and I found this obnoxious pair of shoes, exactly what I was looking for, and it was on clearance for 14 bucks, free shipping. So I get these shoes. I didn't have a credit card, I was in college, so I borrowed a credit card from my neighbor, bought the shoes.
That wasn't sketchy at all.
Yeah, no, not at all. Paid for cash. Anyway, the next day, the shoes show up. At the time, Zappos was doing like overnight shipping for free. This is way before Amazon bought them. Got the shoes, I was blown away by the whole experience. I found something I couldn't find locally, and not only was it cheap, 14 bucks, but the shit arrived the next day. So like, cool. Got the shoes, didn't really care for them, weren't my thing. So I'm like, now what do I do with these things?
Stupid red shoes.
I know. So they just didn't fit right. So after thinking about it, I was like, I didn't know I could return them. I didn't know that was a thing. So I sold them on eBay. So like, I'll just sell these things on eBay. Surely there's somebody else in the United States looking for a pair of obnoxious shoes, and they can't find them.
Probably in Nebraska.
So I put these things up, for like 20 bucks. I tried to cover my costs. Sure shit, they sold. So I was like, okay, that's cool. So I went and mailed the things. I just covered my cost, shipping and everything. But then after it sold, I got to thinking, I was like, you know, I already made the auction. I said, I wonder if I could sell another pair. So I just relisted the auction and didn't really think this whole thing through. Marked the price up, and it sold. So this time I sold it for like $30, free shipping. So now I got $30 in my PayPal. So I'm like, all right, I'll just go order another pair of Zappos, have them shipped to me, and then I'll ship them to them. Let me stop there. Dropship wasn't a thing yet. It was not a thing. There wasn't a term for it, you know. So as I got the money and I was making an order to have them shipped to me so I could ship it to them, I thought, well, I wonder if I could just put their address and have Zappos send it right to them.
Right.
So, and again, I'd never heard of this before. So put the order in Zappos, showed up there the next day, and like 2 days later, I already had feedback from eBay. Great seller, love the shoes, great price, great shipping. I was like, no shit, this actually worked. So then,
let's do that 100 more times.
That's
right?
exactly it. So, so I went back to eBay, and I'm like, all right. So I sell another pair, listed another pair, sold. Listed another pair, took price up, sold. So I kept pushing it until I, you know, got my max price, and I think I ended up getting like $35 a pair plus $12 shipping. So I was selling these shoes for $47, and then Zappos was only $14 shipped. So I get $47 on my PayPal, and by the way, talk about shady, I was still using my neighbor's credit card. So every day I would get $14 on her credit card, I'd take 14 cash. And this just happened, and I kept going. I sold like 30 pairs of these red shoes, you know, making like $25 a pair. So then, you know, it started going, all my wheels started turning. So then I start like mining, and I shit you not, like I was mining Zappos clearance section. Right. At the time, you know, user interface on websites sucked. Search function sucked.
You're probably using dial-up, right?
No, I was using the library internet in between classes. Right. So I had a way of finding clearance shoes that most consumers couldn't find through the normal navigation. So I started data mining and finding all of these shoes that I thought could sell at the right price, and there's no markup. So one thing led to another, and I was selling like, you know, I had like 100 different pairs of shoes on eBay at any time through this weird little system that I had. And yeah, so I mean, at one time I was selling shoes through Zappos, and I was making, you know, just in between classes, I was making $3,000–4,000 a month, you know, just doing nothing but listing auctions and making orders at Zappos. I'm just doing that back
Did Zappos or eBay ever figure this out?
Yes. So
always a problem, right?
So at the time, let's see, my account, I had DougIske.com. So my email was DougIske@DougIske.com. All sorts of red flags started going off on Zappos, right? So they're like, you know, this guy's selling hundreds of our shoes, and they're always going somewhere else, right? Like now in retrospect, in e-commerce, everybody knows e-commerce, like all the fraud red flags were being triggered, right? Carrie Keller's credit card, Doug Iske's buying them, shipping them to this address.
Never to Doug Iske. Never.
Just no clue. So Zappos started calling me and emailing me, and they're like, hey, we need you to, you know, call us and tell us what's going on. And I just ignored them. You know, I never, ever responded. So then they started calling Carrie, my neighbor with the credit card. They're like, hey, do you know Doug? She's like, yeah, I know, it's everything, this doesn't look legit. She's like, oh, it's all legit. She's like, what is he doing? What's he doing with all these shoes? She's like, I don't know. So she's like, it's legit. And they're like, okay, well, I guess we can't really complain there. And then my buddy hosted DougIske.com, so they looked up who owned DougIske.com.
They really went through
They went through the through who is. They started contacting him, and they're like, hey, do you know Doug Iske? Like, what's his deal? He's like, don't know. Even he knew. But he's like, yeah, I don't know.
Plead the fifth.
So they, so there's this whole like cat and mouse game for months and months and months. And finally, and I swear, I personally changed Zappos clearance policy because I had it all figured out. I knew if they had a pair of shoes and it went, they had like multiple markdown tiers. So like the first one was 8%, and then after 2 weeks it would go to 15%. So I knew what that whole thing was, and so I had shoes that I was waiting to get there, and then as soon as they got to a certain tier, I listed them. So anyway,
Good system.
well, one more thing. So now in retrospect, all of this is like, oh, so stupid. But like, I was so brazen that I was emailing them saying, hey, if you guys would just give me access to your catalog, then I can sell a whole shitload more of these shoes, and they'd never respond. This was before they started contacting me.
Yeah.
But I was actually reaching out to them saying, look, you guys get it. APIs weren't a thing then, but I was like, don't you guys have some sort of way I could just get into the back end? So anyway, somewhere in there, they literally changed their whole clearance thing and did away with all of that pricing. And I think, is it 6pm.com? I don't know if anybody knows shoes, but they set up a separate site just to sell their clearance shoes. Yeah, so that was my Zappos story. So that's what got me into like these weird red shoes, right? Like here's a niche product that maybe not everybody in the world's looking for.
And you weren't making hundreds of dollars per.
No.
Right.
Yeah, making $20 a pair,
Right.
Whatever. But yeah, the idea started to set in where it's like, here's this real niche product. Yeah, it doesn't maybe appeal to everybody, but there are enough people looking for this one weird niche product that if you find the niche product and there's enough margin in between, sell the shit out of them, and there's a business there somewhere.
Right? Buy low, sell high.
Yep.
Use technology.
Yep.
So fast forward to what made you decide jerky instead of red shoes?
So many steps in between. So there's a couple progressions in there of other things that happened, other ways that went. But I basically kept doing more of the same. It was really never about money, but eventually it just became, how do I scale this? It's like, I'm selling a pair of red shoes. I waited all day, and I made $25 today. Like, cool. Like, but the idea was like, it works. Like, if it works at a small level, now scale this thing up. So then I kind of turned that into a whole other. That model got on steroids, and then built this whole back end system. And anyway, started to learn how to scale that. Well, I started to run into all sorts of problems. And again, this is before like e-commerce was a thing. So Google wasn't even a thing. But if you search dropship, there was no information. Like, so I'm literally like making this stuff up as I go. There was no, how do I scale an internet retail business? So I started running into a lot of problems. So we would build this system, put it in place, and then it'd break and there'd be a problem. So somewhere along the lines, I was in Omaha, Nebraska, and I was having dinner with some friends, and they said, I was telling them about my shoe stuff, and they're like, you remind me of another friend of ours named Doug. He started a similar business, hammocks.com. And he's like, I was like, that's weird, that's oddly specific. And he's like, yeah, well, he was so successful at that, he started these other patioumbrellas.com, barstools.com. I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. So at the time, I'm working on scaling and trying to wrap my head around how this thing works. And here's a guy that's actually doing it in Omaha. So at this time, they've built it up to about 60 stores. I start researching this guy's business. I was like, that's an interesting business. They were hiring, and I wasn't necessarily looking for a job. I was going to school already. I'm making pretty good money, not doing much. So I didn't really need the money, but I was really interested in cutting my teeth in e-commerce formally. Like, this guy's doing it, he's got
someone else's dime.
On someone else's dime.
Yeah.
He's got 60, 70 employees. Like, this guy's doing what I'm trying to do.
Right.
So I threw together this shoddy resume and got an interview and went in, and somehow they thought I was worth the shit and they hired me. So I went with, at the time the company was called Net Shops. Are you guys familiar with Wayfair?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I've got a million stories I can tell you guys. So Net Shops and Wayfair started at the exact same time, two different parts of the country, two different people, had no idea the other people were doing the same thing. So, and if you guys, Jas will probably know this, but like in the 50s and 60s, like Kenwood and Sony was kind of a similar deal. Kenwood and Sony kind of started at the same time. And for a while, they both were on the same kind of growth trajectory in the similar categories, doing similar types of products. And early on, Kenwood was the monster in the room. Kenwood was killing it, and Sony was kind of behind.
Because Sony out of the beginning was considered cheap.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch
Right,
of reasons.
Yeah.
But at the time, Kenwood's leading the pack. But there was a turning point there when Sony went a different direction and Kenwood went a different direction, and then Sony became the juggernaut. It was the exact same thing at NetShops. NetShops and Wayfair at the same time doing the same thing. NetShops was the juggernaut. We were killing Wayfair, and there came a point in their business model where both companies had to make a decision. And NetShops went this way, Wayfair went this way, and Wayfair is now a juggernaut. And NetShops ended up rebranding, turning into Hay Needle, grew it to like 300 stores.
300 online stores?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so very niche, right? Barstools.com, bocce-ball-sets.com. So they rebranded, ended up selling to Jet and then Walmart. So now they brought into that umbrella. But it's a very interesting time to be there because I relate it to the tortoise and the hare, right? Because in the NetShops was the hare in the race, and they thought
It's also horizontal versus vertical and niche versus.
They were both identical. They were both identical. But yeah, so being at NetShops during the time, we were always ahead, and CSN was at the heels. But then really quickly, you saw CSN went a different direction in how they were able to scale, their platform and their technology, which is what we were running into. So they chose a different way, and eventually, the tortoise passed the hare. So that's where I cut my teeth kind of formally in e-commerce was at NetShops, now Hay Needle. And then when I was at NetShops, a big part of our business was when we decided to go into a category, jerky.com, if that was a category we were going to go into, then part of my job was to help get the domain name for the category. So we had some venture capital to go out and just buy domain names. So we had a running list of literally like thousands of categories that we want, tablecloths, The model was basically, if there's a category with enough search in it and there's nobody that's offering a selection at retail well enough, we think with our platform and our model, we could launch tablecloths.com and start a category. So we had lists of thousands of categories, and then with every category, we had 10 or 20 domains that we want to get, that have to go with it. So I was managing this list of domain names that we were getting, and I think at the time it was like 10,000 domains. We had a spreadsheet, it was crazy. Going down the spreadsheet, we saw the same 5 or 6 people owned them over and over and over. So
Squatters.
So these people were like, they owned, the best names, chairs.com, tables.com. They weren't like long tail, they were the words. So we noticed that we started identifying that there's people out there that just bought these things up. So I started contacting these people, trying to build a relationship so we could buy their names or partner with them or something. And no, I'm just going to cut the story short. So after meeting some of these people at a big domain convention one time, I hit it off with one of them really pretty well. And him and I started talking, and he, basically he's like, "Oh, why don't you just, I've got all these domains that you want,
Right.
that NetShops wants. Why don't you come down here and just build these for me?"
Right.
So I'm like, okay.
So a partnership formed out of that idea.
Yep, basically. So I came down at this time. He was in Wichita Falls, and he came down and gave me his whole portfolio. It was like 2,000 very generic domains. And he said, I have no idea how e-commerce works. He's a watermelon farmer. He's like, I have no idea how this works. I just have the domains, and I've.
He didn't want to start with watermelon.com?
He has watermelons. Yeah, that's actually how he started.
Wow. Wow.
Beef jerky delivery.
Oh, we didn't look at you.
We decided we would mess with you a little bit.
Yeah.
We appreciate you delivering our beef jerky.
Thanks, Jared. Thank you.
Now we have beef jerky to give away when we're done.
So I came down and he said, I have no idea how this works, this e-commerce stuff, no clue. Take one of my domains and show me how it works. Build a business around it, show me how it works. So went through jerky.com, that looks like it. So there you go.
There you go.
So, yep, so I moved down to Wichita Falls, hired one guy from Omaha with me, and first day went to Office Depot, bought a couple desks and put them together, and then we're like, all right, let's build a business.
So a pretty non-traditional approach to building a business.
Yeah, yeah.
Very good, because traditional approaches are a little boring.
Yeah.
Right?
But very Silicon Valley.
In a way, right? But with a Texas flair. With
A Texas flair.
watermelon.com.
Yeah.
But then you were in Texas, jerky.com was a thing, and you decided to move to Oklahoma and bring jerky.com with you. What prompted that? What was your thought process? And it seems like you're pretty happy that happened.
Yeah, so jerky.com was supposed to be just a test, right? It was show me how this thing works. We had kind of a bigger picture, and the bigger picture was, I told you guys on that master spreadsheet that I looked through, there was like 5 or 6 names that showed up over and over. Well, he knew all of those guys very well. And these guys are impossible to get a hold of. You can't call them, you can't email them, you can't do anything. The only way to get in contact with them is to be in the inner circle. Well, he knew them. So the original idea at the time was, let's build a big, like, cross between Amazon and Wayfair, right? These 5 or 6 guys that you know, between them all, they owned over 1 million domain names, and generic domain names. Not all singular words, but also 2-word, 3-word domains. So the big picture was, let's build this huge platform, the e-commerce platform. Let's bring all of these guys into this as partners, have access to all of these domain names, and let's crank out a bunch of these websites. So that was the big goal. So jerky.com, show me how this works on a small scale. If this works, proof of concept, we can go to them, put this thing packaged together. So that's what we started working on. So for a couple of years, we built this this platform and got some of these partners involved. And the business started to grow. We started hiring people, and the business started to grow to the point where we needed people that did specific things. And those people, we couldn't find them in Wichita Falls, Texas. And if we found somebody with those skills, they sure as hell didn't want to move to Wichita Falls, Texas. So we felt we needed to be in a better business climate for the growth of this new e-commerce company. So we decided to move to Oklahoma City.
Us Oklahoma City people love hearing leaving Texas to come to Oklahoma City for a better e-commerce client, right? That's fantastic to hear. So you moved to Oklahoma City, which most people would say go the other direction, right? And then, as someone who's been in e-commerce your entire professional career, then you went into retail, actual brick and mortar, which is another non-intuitive step. So how did that come about, and how do you feel now that you're not only with one brick and mortar, but you have a second one, right? And you have others in the pipeline.
So eventually, me and my partner parted ways. Things weren't working out. So we completely split paths. I bought him out of his share of jerky.com and then just walked away from the whole other project that we were building. Since then, that project has disintegrated into nothing, which is too bad. Because there was a lot of potential there. We had a lot invested in it, and we had a lot of unique resources at our fingertips that will probably never, ever, ever be used. So parted ways, and personally, it came down to, before I made that decision, it was either, do you want to be a part of something really big own a small piece of something really big and have a lot of strings attached, or own 100% of this smaller thing that, you know, has kind of started to turn into a labor of love, right? Started to identify some other opportunities where maybe it's better off as a brand rather than just this website. You know, my whole professional e-commerce career was building a website that just sold commodities, right? Hammocks.com or Barstools. There wasn't really a brand created around that. It was really just a website that captured traffic and facilitated transactions. So somewhere in there, just, you know, jerky.com turned into a labor of love, and we thought, you know, this looks like this would be more fun if we built a brand around it. So that's where it took that direction. So bought my partner out, then just kind of ran it myself for a while, and then which was a rough transition. But finally got it over, rebranded everything, and we started to get back on a growth trajectory. Then some of my hipster friends from around town, so we're just in a nondescript office warehouse, just shipping product all day, you know, behind a keyboard. And then some of my buddies are like, you know, there's this event that happens in, you know, downtown, and they sell food trucks come out. I'm like, I don't want to do that stuff, you know, like it's too easy to sit behind a keyboard.
H&H, yeah.
It was right, this was right before H&H, but yeah. So they've been telling me forever, like, you need to do these festivals. I'm like, man, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to sit, you know, behind my laptop and talk to customers in email, and I don't want to stand on hot concrete and
I want to
jerky.
actually sell jerky.
Yeah, exactly. But eventually kind of got tricked into doing it. So crammed my little Toyota Prius full of a tent and a table, just like everybody does, and went to the first show we ever did down the farmer's market, and it was actually really fun. So like we met like a lot of local people. It was the first time I'd ever like pitched our product face to face to anybody. You know, my whole career has always been, by career I use loosely, but it's always been just behind a keyboard, right? So this is the first time somebody actually walked up to my table and I told them about our jerky, and oh, you guys are in Oklahoma City, and people thought that was cool. They thought the product was cool. So, and at the end, we even made some money. So I was like, all right, that's pretty fun. Let's do more of that. But I want to do something better than just cramming shit in my Prius. So we got this little Japanese minivan. It's like 10 foot long. And my background is, oh, Jess left. My background's custom car audio stuff. So I thought, all right, I'll find this little tiny vehicle. And we went with it because it's only 10 foot long. So usually when you go to these shows, people give you like a 10-foot booth. So I'm like, all right, I need something that's 10 foot long.
You can't pull a truck into it.
Exactly.
Right.
So I went and scoured the internet and found this thing that's 10 foot long. And then, you know, my car audio background's like, oh, I can custom build this thing into a display that opens out of the back. So we did that mostly out of convenience, and didn't really think about it at the time, but it kind of turned into a thing. Like, it's like a branded thing. So people started identifying it around Oklahoma City. So we started going to these shows. So it was really cool because we just drove right up, opened up, we were selling, right? Everybody else was like dragging their stuff out. And at the end of the show, we just closed it up and put away. But then people started seeking us out.
It probably smelled good. It smelled like jerky.
Well, it smelled like burnt oil. But yeah, so people started seeking us out. They're like, when's the next show you're going to be at? So we started going to these shows and having a schedule. And after a while, people are like, you know, we don't want to wait till the next show. Can we just come into your location this week? Like, well, we don't have a location. After about 1 million times of people asking if they can come into our store, we're like, why don't we just open a store? You know, we got $150,000 in inventory in this nondescript warehouse. Why don't we just get a cool building around where we hang out, build a cool showroom floor. If nobody walks in, we don't care. We're there doing customer service and shipping orders anyway. So we finally negotiated a deal to get a little building on Hudson, and just built it into a cool looking little warehouse, and opened the doors, you know, and
there you are.
there we are. And like literally the first customer walked in, and the first thing he said is this a franchise? And immediately I was offended, because like we build everything by hand. I was like, that doesn't look like a goddamn franchise. Like, I built this shit.
Actually, I took it the exact opposite way, which was
you were so thorough in your process.
Well, eventually that's what it was, right? It ended up being a compliment, but my first thing was, I want to see the damn franchise. So, but then first night we heard that like 3 times, like, is this a franchise? And so started thinking about it, and then yeah, we're like, well, maybe we should go the franchise route. So,
which is a whole another conversation because it's a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
nother animal, right?
That's right. Oh, yeah.
The idea of franchising is a huge
it's a huge undertaking.
endeavor. Right?
Yes, it is. It's. I had no idea. I mean, I thought you just put together a 3-ring binder, go around and find someone.
Yeah, everyone thinks that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of money. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work. It's a
Risk.
Yeah.
usually,
So, so anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, so then now we're in the brick and mortar space, and it's done pretty well. You know, it fits our business really well because we have the online piece of it. So you know, we can use that one space for multiple things. So you know, if customers, our retail store is different than other retail stores because if customers aren't walking in, it's not necessarily life or death. You know, I mean, if all you have is a brick and mortar building that sells clothes and customers don't come in, that's going to give you some anxiety.
True.
But
Plus you have different than typical food, even food retail though, because you don't have the same levels of spoilage.
yeah,
and
it's all
things like that.
prepackaged, long shelf life.
Right.
So yeah, so I mean, yeah, so now we're in the brick and mortar space, and it's been pretty good for us. So we got the store in Hudson. That Christmas, I'm a glutton for projects, so I said, let's just build another one of these trucks and put it in Penn Square Mall. So we did that. Put it in, just kind of intended for it just to be in for Christmas. You know, like Hickory Farms pops up just for November, December. So I'm like, well, we'll just go in for November, December, and you know, make a few bucks, and hopefully spread the word that the store's here. And that actually did well. So we're like, well, let's see if we can make this work year round. So we signed a year lease and actually kept it there for a full year, and that did really well. You know, not just from a revenue standpoint, but probably the biggest surprise is just brand awareness.
Right.
You know, we're surprised the mall has so much traffic. You know, we get people that come to our stores and they're like, oh, I saw you at the mall. So yeah. So anyway, I'm rambling.
Let's see if anyone has any questions. We have questions from the audience, a little Q&A before we
Bring
wrap
it.
up here.
You
But
guys
everyone's
eat the
mouths are
jerky?
full. They're eating jerky.
Everybody
They're
like the
super
jerky?
happy.
So this is our sriracha bacon. We got 100 different kinds of jerky in the store. No two alike. But I tell every customer, if there's only one thing I'm gonna point you to, and I'm trying to make you a customer for life, it's that sriracha bacon. So
Very nice, and I think we have some others that we'll give away here in a second. Any questions from our studio audience tonight for Doug? Yes, sir.
What was the biggest misconception you had? Something you thought would be a really big deal that you stressed about that turned out to be nothing?
just in business in general, or
Yeah.
This question, that's stressful. I don't have a quick answer for that. Something I thought was going to be big, but it was no big deal.
Something that you just overestimated or something you thought would be really important that ended up being minuscule?
I got nothing. I got the other way, you know, things that, you know, things that I didn't, cash flow. I mean, you know, some of these things, when I'm a bootstrapper and I come from an old farm family, so like everything's cash. If you don't have money for it, you don't buy it. So started the business, every year's growth was just all profits, you know, like I didn't pay myself the first 4 years. Literally every dollar we made went into more products, you know, new packaging, things like that. And then even that, you know, it gets to a point where, like right now, Christmas is really big for us. The business grows to a point where all of a sudden you can need a lot of cash really quick. So cash flow is something that at some point you need to start looking at. You know, there's a transition between, and we're still bootstrapping. I don't want to make it seem like we're drown it in cash. But I mean, there gets a point where, you know, you need a lot of product, you know, for Christmas, and bootstrapping doesn't always get it. So that was a big eye-opening thing one day, you know, where you can run as a bootstrapper cash flow basis for a while, but then there gets a point where it's like, I need something here other than just my cash.
Did you ever consider taking VC money or other investments, not bank loan, but actual buy-in?
No. When I had to buy my partner out, I got a SBA loan, which is something I can't stress enough was really good for us. And maybe that's one, a relationship with your banker. And I know everybody's business is always at different levels, and if I went back 6 or 7 years, I never would have thought I'd be standing up here telling you guys to have a relationship with a banker. But I mean, the SBA, I worked with Bank First, which I recommend anybody do. If you guys ever need, you know, some sort of financing help, I went to 4 or 5 different banks, and most of them just don't give a shit.
Right.
You know, I mean, unless you're really big, you're really established, you have tons of assets, you know, Chase, those kinds of banks, they don't give a
Unless
shit.
you own property or already have $1 million in the bank, which is why
Yeah, exactly.
defeats the purpose of going.
Yeah,
you know,
if I had what they wanted, I wouldn't need
Exactly.
it, you know. But Bank First, it was a godsend, you know, they're local, and they bent over backwards, signed us up with an SBA loan, and you know, over the years, you know, we've kept that relationship good, and they've kind of seen the business grow. So when you get to a cash flow position, you know, it's literally a phone call and then a few pieces of paper, and you know, there's some line of credit there. So yeah, I guess it's a long-winded answer. Is cash flow.
It's a good point. Any other questions?
So many questions.
So many questions, so little time. We have one right here.
I was just gonna ask how much you depend on new customers, or you really your existing customer base, is that where you're getting most of your revenue?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are focusing more and more on return customers, because we have a consumable product, where if somebody buys it, has a good experience with it, and I see an empty plate here. So if they buy a product from us, they like it, and they had good experience with the service, it's something they're gonna come back and buy more for us. So the last 18 months, we've really put a lot more of our resources into remarketing and kind of building that customer relationship, and tracking that more than we ever have. This is our 10th Christmas this year, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say how long we went before we really got into the data. You know, maybe that's another thing I would throw out is, you know, sometimes you get so tunnel visioned into one particular part of your business that, you know, you focus here too long. It's the old plate spinning analogy.
The day-to-day can eat up that big long-term vision, right?
So I mean, and I hate to speak in cliches, but it is like plate spinning, right? And if you focus too much on one plate for too long, you know, you'll find yourself 3 years behind on this plate.
Especially a company that technology is a big part of what you do, right?
Man, yeah.
You have to be paying a lot of attention immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't remember where I was going with that, but
New customers versus
new customers. Okay, yeah. So a big direction for us now and in the future is going to be continuing to build relationships with existing customers to really maximize the lifelong value of that customer. You know, keep them as long as we can. You know, the latency, the time between the orders. Try to really understand where those are so that we can start communicating to them at the right time. Yeah, I think that's where it's at, right? Like when I was with NetShops, e-commerce was a different world. It was mostly about transactions. So it's finding somebody who's Googling hammock, get them to your website, and then get them to convert to a sale. It was all transaction based in the early 2000s, right? But as time is marching on and Amazon is marching on, e-commerce, in my opinion, is really changing. I mean, so the companies that I think are going to make it are the ones that really build a brand and they really have a relationship with that customer. Because there's some products you don't mind buying on Amazon, but there's other types of products that you're looking for a little different level of service. So
I'll take that a step further though, because I think in 19 and beyond, it's not just the customer service experience, and that's absolutely 100% a part of it, but it's also going to be, you're going to be attracting audience by building community around what you do, whether it's gourmet foods, craft beer, technology, whatever it is. It has to be authentic, and you have to build community around it. It's not just enough to attract a single person to what it is you're doing to make a transaction, conversion, etc. You're going to have to attract groups because you're engaging the groups as communities and not trying to sell them anything first. I think that's the next level of sophistication, whether it's online, brick and mortar, etc., that it's going to take for businesses to truly survive with repeat customers, referrals, etc. Because dragging in new clients is the hardest part.
Right.
And keeping and referral business is the easiest part.
Right.
So I think it's even more sophisticated moving forward. It's not just a great experience the first time. It's building community around like-minded people who come for all the right reasons, and they're sniffing out inauthentic, only in it for the sales in entities. They're sniffing them out real quick and moving away from them. So
yeah, it's getting a lot easier. I
you
mean,
can't,
10 years
you
ago,
can't open an online comic book shop unless you really know about comic
Yeah.
books, or beef jerky, or craft beer, or anything else. That's my take on it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, one last question, then we'll go. No, go ahead.
Babydial.com. So, social media drives everybody crazy. Like in my startup, social media is like the king of all of it. Can you talk about the various channels that you've engaged in and what works for you?
Yeah, so remember when I was telling you plate spinning? Social media is one that admittedly we haven't really tapped yet. We've dabbled in it here and there, and we haven't quite hit a stride in it. Every category, and look, I learned this at net shops too. When you did 300 categories, some things are rules of thumb, some things apply to everything, but not everything applies to everything. So every category is completely different. He was talking about community. Some sites, some categories lend themselves more to community and social than others.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably gonna be hard pressed to build a community around toilet paper.
Or hammocks is a pretty good example, probably not, but types of food, beer, comic books, anything that has a community anyways, like where people would come together to do those things, board games, recreation, anything recreational, anything like that where people do them in groups to begin with, or did them before the internet brought them together. You have to go back to that.
I guess what I'm saying is that there's no doubt the power of social media, but it's hard. It's hard. Everybody says everything's social media, social media, social media. Well, there's some you can't sell drywall screws and just be tearing it up on Instagram.
Right.
I mean, there's just some categories, and so they're all different, right? Like if you look at Instagram, I mean, fashion, cosmetic, of course, like those people are so vain. Sorry for the vain people here, but right, those are the people that are always.
Well, it's a visually first platform, so those categories do better.
These big phrases.
That's what I do.
I heard a hyphen. Yeah.
But I found like a lot of tech people are a lot more interested in Twitter, and then a lot more of those community ideas. A lot of like, let's come together and talk and do things that Facebook is a little bit better for. And tomorrow there'll be a new platform that doesn't exist today that we'll have to sort of adapt to. I think my advice for you on this question is start with one that has the best chance of being right for you, but don't ignore the rest, but really pour yourself into the one that makes sense. If it's visual, or if there's an audience there, or a way to find via hashtags or groups, or Facebook, doing groups and things like that. Whatever works there, go there and really do that. Can't ignore the other ones. Have a presence, but focus.
Oh, definitely.
Focus and build, and then what you learn from that, try to dabble in the other areas as much as you can. At some point, it's just not worth anything.
And what I've seen a million times is like, there's people, everybody's talking social media. You got to be social media. You got to be social. And so you start this business of drywall screws, and everybody around you is telling social media. Well, if you don't, you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt, because if you take what you hear, then all of a sudden you would think all day, every day, you need to be on Twitter talking about drywall screws. Well, if you do that for 3 months, 6 months, a year,
There's no ROI.
you're gonna find you've been focusing on the wrong goddamn thing.
Yeah.
For real.
So it's tough. So you talk about social media and stuff. I will admittedly say we haven't really found our stride. We found, we've gotten a little bit of traction here and there, but we haven't really found a way to really get something behind and really push.
150 years ago in e-commerce, when I had a startup called Productify between 06 and 09, we literally went after categories, as we called them, that had magazines and or a convention.
Right.
But that's like, magazines are not a thing. Magazines go in blocks now. Their magazines are gone, and conventions are like, oh, we type up things this way at our company. That's not a thing either. So I'm just wondering, I mean, what is working? How do people discover you besides the little?
I hate it, situations like this. I hate to say this, but the real truth is, it depends on your business, your industry, your category, your niche, your position, etc.
Yeah, we were doing specialty food, which is crazy too. That's what's really crazy.
Yeah, and because it's so crowded. So it depends. I hate to give that answer. It depends. What I can tell you though is the big ideas, the ideas of customer relationships, about customer experience, about bringing them back, referrals, community, as brand, all those ideas always work for any business that you're working on, anything that you're doing. That's not the answer, it depends. That always works, whether it's online, whether it's social media, whether it's going to conventions, trade shows, street festivals, whatever it is. Those ideas of building a business authentically like that are always correct. Finding the vehicle depends on the type of business.
Test and pivot, right?
Yeah.
Dig it. Thank you.
With that, guys, get a big round of applause.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's figure out how we're going to give away some door prizes. Okay. So.